Hola y bienvenidos a Cien de Cine. Esto es la toma 0.22. Intersemanal puede decir dos cosas: o que tenemos un estreno avanzado, o como es el caso, que nos vamos hasta Estados Unidos, a Woodstock, a ver el nuevo film de Ang Lee, Taking Woodstock, que nos cuenta a través de la historia de Elliot Tibet lo que fue un concierto que movió a todo Estados Unidos y parte del mundo. Vamos a ver ahora lo que fue la premiere en Estados Unidos y escuchemos a sus protagonistas, incluido su director, el oscarizado Ang Lee.
So Woodstock's kind of a symbol, but it's especially important for me because it relates to a movie I made, The Ice Storm. I used to use that as an ingredient and doing the hangover. Woodstock is important to me as the average people in the world. We romanticize and glorify it like it's a symbol of sharing and peace and love, the late 60s spirit, a great age of innocence, so to speak, and I think that we care for environment, equality, anti-establishment and all that.
I never realized that I was so vain until I had to dress in women's clothing. And it's really hard to find a nice dress for a 6'3", 220-pound woman. I think for me it's the spirit of this festival and what it meant to a new generation of Americans and the potential that we have now with a new administration and a new sense of patriotism and a new sense of national pride to remember what the previous generations accomplished. And in my estimation, Woodstock was an incredible accomplishment.
Ang was like, we are going to immerse you in video footage from the time. So we were constantly watching video footage. We were constantly, I was in rehearsal for a couple weeks before it even started. We were the theater company who lived in the barn doing like Tchaikovsky and like avant-garde and Chekhov, and we were doing that, man. We were like doing like trust falls and like, acting exercises before, for weeks before they were even shooting us. And that was just the vibe on set. It was like, and you want to do it because it's 1969 and it's like, the whole time we were going, this is so much fun. We're living in 1969 and we're getting paid to do this. And what other job? It's one of those times where you're like, I love my job. So, and it's Ang Lee and you're surrounded by this incredible ensemble. So, I mean, I had a wonderful time the whole time.
He's very meticulous and very detail-oriented, but at the same time, he never loses sight of the, you never lose the emotional center. Ever, he's always very focused on that first and foremost, and miraculously everything else seems to, he sees the complete picture. Well, it's something I always, associated with my parents' generation, and now having sort of lived through it in this little way, it sort of became more personal, and I also realized that the people that, organized the whole festival were kids. So it makes sense that, I couldn't believe that they, at first when they were casting and wanted me to do it, I was like, but I'm way too young. Not so. It was, no, it really ran pretty smoothly as far as I could tell. Yeah, a lot of extras, some with and some without clothes and everybody, but it became like no big deal. You know what I mean? Like everyone just got over it so fast, and then I think that from what I could see, the extras were having a really good time being naked and hanging out.
It was almost in our mutual obsession with detail that we really became close in a sense, because I feed off that. I love detail and acting, and he was the same way, but with everything in directing. So he would give me a lot of different books, and mostly documentaries too. Winter Soldier, which was really valuable to me about the young guys in Vietnam. And we just had a great time just focusing on every little different pieces and who this guy was, and really kind of trying to construct this real character. And I mean, I loved it. I love the whole process of details.
I mean, there was a day where we actually did a mudslide. There was a day where there was naked hippies walking around, vans pouring out of extras. Aang made every extra actually have a backstory. So it was overwhelming and exciting to work with Aang and pretty much everyone that was involved with creating the world of that set.
Every single group of hippies that camped out on the front lawn of the El Monaco Hotel had a purpose, had an identity, had a particular thing that they did, whether it was weaving baskets or macrame or, trying to talk people down from bad trips. We had backstories for each of them, for virtually, I would say, close to 250, 300 key extras. So that's detail for you. I mean, they were schooled. We sent them to hippie camp. We rehearsed with them. We did, we went to extraordinary details to make sure that they felt part of the period, since most of them hadn't been born naturally. So it was really wonderful. But that's all Aang, and that's the way he works, and that's the way he paints his picture.
Most of them were so mediated by experiences that I'd had, because I was the younger brother. My brother was really of the age of the Woodstock generation. And I just remember that triple album, that triple LP, and the photograph on the cover, and the songs, which of course, if you went to Woodstock, you probably didn't hear any of it. Certainly you never saw any of it. They didn't have Jumbotrons back then. The people were tiny dots on a stage. The sound system caught maybe the first couple 100,000 people, but otherwise you were in the mud, in the rain, hearing little vibrations.
This is the first movie I've ever done. Ang Lee was sort of the first thing that really attracted me to the movie because I'm such a huge fan of his. And then I also got really lucky because it's a movie about Woodstock, which is this incredible, beautiful event. And I got to play a guy named Michael Lang, who was sort of spearheaded the whole movement, and I got to not only play him, but I got to meet him and spend time with him, and he's an incredible, generous, beautiful human being. And so having the opportunity to work with Aang and act in a movie like that and then play someone that's so amazing, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm always surprised at how important it still remains in everybody's minds and how present. This 40th anniversary has been amazing. The amount of interest around the world, really, it's been phenomenal. So I think Woodstock was a real moment of hope at a very dark time in our history, and I think that hope is really what people remember, that possibility of a better way to sort of get through the planet and through our lives.
It's like winning the lottery. I've been working on this book for 7 years, 3 years trying to get a movie done. Disney was going to do it, then they said no. Spider-Man was going to do it, they said no. They wanted options. I didn't want an option. I said, I want the movie. They say, who are you to say that? I said, I want the movie. And I went to San Francisco and I met Ang Lee, and he said, I want to do a comedy, and then 2 months later, he said, let's go make a Hollywood movie.
It's based on this book, so I read the book pretty quickly to prepare for my meeting with them. And when I read it, I said, wow, there's some kind of heavy stuff in here. Elliot, the way he wrote the book, it talks about his family in Woodstock, but then there's a chapter about his kind of private coming of age and being a gay man in the late 60s and trying to come to terms with that. And I thought, wow, this would be quite an acting job. What it turned out was that the film didn't have as much of that stuff in it. So it wasn't quite as challenging, but meeting him, the character I played is not sure of himself yet and very subdued and quiet. But Elliot now has really found himself, and he's much louder and kind of on, So it was really weird. I'm like, wait, this isn't the guy that you guys had in the book. And they're like, don't worry, meet him and, we'll figure this out.